I'm going to talk primarily about what we put into House Bill 1, the changes that were there, the things that we put in, and specifically to look at what were the difference makers. And when we started out looking at the thing back in late last year, we started to look at what made a difference, what programs worked, because we decided we weren't going to invent new programs. We decided we had programs out there that worked, and we started out with the equation that basically said we had this requirement in the budget that was going to build 3 new prisons, and the cost that was going to be there associated with that, and the cost associated with manning and staffing that. And one of the things you quickly learn in this thing, I'm the engineer, and statistically I learned that you could put about 2,200 to 2,500 people in a new prison, and that new prison was going to cost us between $250 and $300 million to build. And a new prison will cost us somewhere around $40 million a year to run, because an average cost per prisoner is about $42 a day. If you have 2,500 prisoners out, you can do the math, and the engineering math tells me that's about $40 million a year to staff that prison. And we had the projection that we started this session with that we were 17,000 prison beds short, 17,000. Quick calculation says, and that was by the year 2012. That's not like it was a long ways off down the future, like some of these states look at and say they'll have to build another prison in 10 years. If you look at the Kansas people, Tony, they'll have to build a new prison in 5 or 10 years. We had to build 5, 6, 7 of them, and had to get them going pretty soon. Otherwise, we were not going to meet the demands that the system prepared that it looked like it had. So we had to look at the things that would make a difference in the system. And fortunately, we found Tony Fabella wandering the halls, needed to have a little employment. We put him to work with us to look at the statistical information. Because we'd heard that he had a little bit of knowledge of statistics and background and had done some things in the state, looking at things in the past. So we put Tony to work. Brought in a committee that put together basically of staff members and said, what are these programs we need? And if you look at the things that we did, we looked at probation residential treatment beds, we looked at intermediate sanction facilities, we looked at substance abuse programs, substance abuse felony punishment programs, SAFEs. We looked at things like, do we need specialty programs in the prisons, whether that be therapeutic programs for those with drug problems, or whether those be therapeutic programs for those with alcohol problems. We also looked at the state jail system, and I found out we didn't have any programs at all. We were sending people in there who were drug users primarily to the state jails and had no program whatsoever for them. We also needed halfway houses, and lo and behold, once we started putting those numbers together, we started looking at what did we need and what worked. And I will tell you, we had prosecutors, and we had judges, and we had experts in the field, and we had various interest groups, and everybody coming in and telling us what we needed. But we came up with some pretty good calculations on the numbers of each of those programs that we felt we needed. And we put that information together into this program and said, what did we need and when? Because the other question is, when do you need them? And you look at the projections of the number of people you have and say, when do we actually need these beds? Because we were going to go up to staff by 17,000, but that didn't happen overnight. We didn't bring 17,000 people in, day after tomorrow. We brought them in over a period of about 5 years. So you can space some of the programs out, spread them out, and you needed to do that, obviously, to bring them on board, because when you bring on a new program, you need a facility, you need a location, you need people, you need trained staff, you need the experts, you need the counselors, you need the trained people in those fields. You need the trained drug counselors. You need those people that you have to make these things work. So we started putting together this program and actually worked it through the process in House Bill 1. And I will tell you that it didn't change a whole lot from the time we started to the time it finished. Though it had some iterations in between, but what it ended up is almost looking exactly like what we put together back in November of 2006 was the recommendations we had for what programmatic needs we had that we could actually expand to and would actually meet the needs that we have in the Texas prison systems, because we had to have those right. We looked at 800 new probation residential treatment beds. We looked at 1,400 intermediate sanction facilities, and we said that there'd be 700 for parole and 700 for probation. Now that still has some open-ended to it, adding this to it might change a little bit. We have 1,500 new beds for SAPs, and these are not new programs. We already had these out there in some numbers, but these are major increases in these programs and the number that they had. SAP with 1,500 beds to go out there is an extremely large number. We put a recommendation, actually TDCJ brought to us, was for 500 beds for a DWI facility. We put in there additional slots for in-prison therapeutic community slots for the drug utilization program. We found that Senator Whitmire is obviously been my ally and friend in doing all this stuff together. He's the real expert on what goes on in the prisons, what happens there, what's really going, what's really occurring. And we found that, gee, they had a real backlog at one time in prison therapeutic programs, and I found that the backlog had almost gone away, and we figured out real quickly that somebody had told somebody else, don't put anybody else in this program, because we don't have any spaces for them. Well, that's not what we want, guys. When we have prisoners in our system and they need a program, and that program will have my engineering again, will have a mathematical probability of increasing the likelihood that that person will not return to prison and will be able to get work and get a job and stay out of prison and be productive in our society. If we increase that by 10 or 15%, we've done a huge plus for us in the state. It makes a huge difference. And you start looking at the number of people that we had, and what that impact would be, and it was huge. Anybody got any idea how many people come to prison every year in Texas? It's 65,000 every year, 65,000. We let out almost the same, almost 65,000 go home, by the way. Okay? There's a little bit of drop there, but not much. And in fact, that's a lot of people. You want to quickly figure out that that's about 20 a day, am I right in my calculations? I think that's right. Maybe I'm off, maybe it's 200 a day. 200 a day, I'm sorry, it's 200 a day. I'm sorry, I'm off. My mind is not working as quickly today, but 200 a day. They go home. Yeah? And we're talking about a recidivism rate that's in the 30%. That means that 60 of those 200 are coming back within 3 years. If we cut it so that only 30 of them are coming back, what a huge difference we've made. And that's the engineer in me saying that that's how we can be successful in this program. We know we're going to have some failures. We know that some people that go through some of these programs are not going to succeed, but if we increase the likelihood that they're going to, they're very successful. We also found that we needed 1,200 slots in the state jails for their treatment programs, for their substance abuse programs. We also found that we needed more halfway houses. A big thing that we need in the community is a place for these people to go back to. And that's one of the bigger problems we had. And lo and behold, about 3 weeks into the session, this little thing hits Senator Whitmire and I in the head called the Texas Youth Commission. And we also ended up having to do just a little bit of work that dealt with the revisions of the Texas Youth Commission. And we did that. I will also give the senator a lot of credit. He recognized that there were some facilities at TYC, as we all did, that were not suitable for use by youth, as a youth facility. And we basically had 2 of those, okay? And we decided at that point to move those 2 facilities back to TDCJ, because they'd originally been TDCJ facilities. They didn't have a need for them, so they give them to the Youth Commission, and we just basically moved them back.